This is an introductory video to C programming. We'll start by writing a simple C program, like the very first C program, hello world, using an editor, and we'll also try to compile it using the development environment we got, followed by a number of small C programs and their details. Let's start our very first C program. To do that, I'm going to use a Linux development environment. Here is a Linux terminal, and particularly this one is an Ubuntu Linux distribution. And the Linux terminal, I'm going to use an editor called Vim to write my programs. I'll start with the very first program, which is like I said, the hello world program, and I'm going to open a file named hello and the extension C using the editor Vim. The editor opens like this, where I'm going to write my first program. So before writing the program, usually it's a good idea to put a comment about your program. So I'm going to write a small comment for my program, my first program. Here is how it goes. This is my first program and it should print hello world to the screen. Written by, or let's say author. Last updated let's put the date, the time. As you would have noticed, I'm writing a comment and I put the comment under slash and a star, and I'm finishing it with another slash and a star. This way of commenting is done for multi-line commenting, where I can start the slash star and write as many lines. I can start with the slash star and I can write as many lines as I would like, and I can finish the comments by putting a star and a slash. Now let's start my program. Every C program starts or contain a main method, and that is what I'm going to write first. The main method usually is written like this. That's how you declare, or you write the method declaration. Inside the method, I'm going to write a print statement to display the hello world, like I mentioned earlier. So this is what I'm going to write. The function, an inbuilt function in C to write or to print some string or some message to the screen is printf. So you can do printf hello world and a new line. And every C programs every C function, like the main here, should return a value. Particularly the main function should return 0 if the main function runs without any trouble, and the number if there are errors, which we'll discuss in detail later. So almost done, except for one point. The C programs, like I said, I used a function called printf, and the printf function is part of the C library, a particular part of the library where the printf function is called the standard input output library, or in short stdio for input output. So if I want to specifically say that I wanted to use a function from the the standard input output library to the C compiler, I should include a line in my code as follows: standard input output dot h, and that's a comment I would like to have include. So a single line comment in C looks like this: double slashes and then the comment, and the comment goes till the end of the line. So that basically I included a line to say that I'm using some function from the library called standard input output, or stdio, standard input output, and then the function is already included and I'm printing it like that. So let's now save the file. The editor I'm using is called Vim. To save file in Vim editor, I had to escape, press the escape key, colon, I can see the colon here, and then W for write, Q for quitting the editor. This is a text editor, so and the command editor you can run with any command window of the terminal. So the hello world file is the C program for hello world is written, and the next step is to compile it. So to compile the program, I'm going to use a compiler known as the GNU C compiler, in short GCC. GNU C compiler, GCC. So I'm going to use the GCC compiler to compile a code. This is how it goes. I'm going to run the compiler, and I'm going to say I want the compiler to output with the option -o, output a file called hello, and the input to the compiler is what I wrote called hello.c. Hello is my output, which is the executable file, given that it's a compiler that I can run later. So that's I did. And if your program that you wrote, in our case in hello.c, has no errors, you should get no messages when you compile. If there are errors in your code, you will get error messages. One additional option to the GCC compiler is to use an option called capital W all, or in short WAL, which stands for warning all. So the compiler will enable all the warning messages, if there are any, when you compile. Let's try the same compilation once again with the warning enable, and you can see there's no warning available, meaning the program has no errors or warning, the program we wrote. The next step is to just list all the files I have in the folder. I have two files, in fact, like I have the files, but I have two files, the hello.c and then the hello. The hello.c file is the one I wrote, and hello is the one I compiled and got as an executable, the output file. Now I can run the executable by, if I want to run the executable in Linux shell like that one in this terminal, I had to run it by using the dot to indicate that I want to run something from the present folder. Dot there stands for the present folder, and a stroke, and the file name to be run. The file that I wanted to run is the hello, because that's the binary or the executable I generated by the compiler, through the compiler. So I'm going to run it and enter to run. So you can see we got our first program run, and it is the hello world. It is basically printing the hello world message. given that we have already written a C program, the hello world one, let's look at the process of writing a C program. A C program, like any other program that is usually compiled and run, writing a C program has basically 3 steps. The first one is you write the source code, and then the second part is you build or you compile the program, and the last part you run it. We in fact have done all 3 while we are writing the hello world program. To go into little more details, let me go back to the same program and open the hello world program. So in this program we have some comments, and then we have this include statement, and then we have the main method. So a program like this is written, and this is like when I want to write the program, I'll be writing at least the main method, and in the main method, if I'm using library functions such as that is like built-in library functions such as the printf, I should have to tell the compiler that I'm using those functions by including the standard like the particular library header files, we call them, the one which are ending with h. Here it's this stdio, stands for standard input output, because printf is a function from the standard input output library. Now this is like the part where I write the program. I write the source code of the program, and then the next step what it happens is I have to compile it, and in fact I have shown you how to do it, right? So GCC all out hello.c. This is what we did a little while ago, and it worked, and we ran it as well. So the compilation process or the building process is what we have done here. In fact, the building process is not done in a single go. It is done in multiple steps, although the GCC compiler does all of that together in a single go. It is in fact done step by step. The main steps in building program is are like shown here: pre-processing, compiling, and linking. I'm going to show you how each one of these steps are done, or how we can stop a compiler at an intermediate building step, right? So let's say for instance I wanted to stop the compiler just after pre-processing. So before let me show you how it is done. If I want to stop the compiler to just after pre-processing, I can put this option called E and the file name. When I do it, what the compiler will do, it will only do the pre-processing and stop. Let me show. You can see it's printing out whatever is done just after pre-processing. Yes, you also can see like the file has whatever it printed out has what I typed in the main method, and in addition there are like a lot of other things. We'll discuss more about the preprocessor directive later. The next step in the compilation process is compile, and the last step is link. So if I want to stop my compiler just at the stage of compiling and not going into the details of linking, I can do so by putting an option called C. So which will stop my compiler just at the compilation step and not going into the linking, and it will generate a new file called hello.o that is just after the compiling, before linking. And obviously if I want the program, if I want my compiler to do all three, I can do what I did in the first place, which is an out and an option like that, and it gives me the executable, which is pre-processed, compiled and linked. Just one more comment, the GCC compiler can also compile code without giving any options like this, the compiler name and just the file name. It compiles, and the output here, given that we have not specified the name of the output, like in the last case, here we have not, and it is not specified, the output file is always named a.out, which runs as well, but it's not a file name that we wanted. It is the one that's automatically generated by the compiler, meaning the builder, right? So it does both all three pre-processing, compiling and linking, and it works. Now obviously the last step of the writing of C program process is loading and running. So both loading the program, so right now the program that I wrote and compiled is either hello or compiled. Basically when I say compile, I mean like pre-process, compile and linked, is either hello or a.out. Both of them are equivalent, and you can see that the file sizes are equal, and therefore they are just identical programs, two different file names. If I want to run this program, the first thing I had to do is to load this program from the file. It's a file right now, to the memory. It is called loading, and then the program has to be executed instruction by instruction from the memory. Both of these are done by doing this particular line. Like for instance, if I say hello and enter, it does both the loading and execution, or in other words, we specify this process as the run process. So you can see load and execute, both of them are done by just doing this single thing. The same loading and run can be done for the other file, the one I generated later, without giving a file name into the GCC compiler. That this is how it's going to go. It loads and runs and produces the output.